I discovered my wife's affair about 5 months ago. Looking back now, I can see how everything changed after that moment. At first, I went through all the usual stages: denial, heartbreak, and even those pathetic attempts to win her back. I was a mess for weeks, barely functioning. I never confronted her about it directly. I figured she must have known that I knew. My behavior changed so drastically that it would have been impossible to miss. But she just carried on like nothing was wrong. Maybe she didn't care, or maybe she thought I would just get over it. Either way, she kept seeing him. About 2 months ago, something in me just switched off. I was done with all of it, done with a marriage, done with pretending, done with caring. I started planning for divorce quietly. I left the lawyer's bills where she could see them. I avoided being home when she was there. When she tried to talk to me, I would only give one-word answers: yes, no, maybe, or I don't know. Even our kids picked up on it. They asked me what was happening, so I had that difficult conversation with them. Sometimes grown-ups can't be together anymore, but we both love you very much. None of this is your fault. My wife was in the room when I said this. She didn't say anything, didn't object. I took that as another sign that she was okay with where things were heading. Then last week, something unexpected happened. I ran into Jasmine at a coffee shop, someone I knew from high school, years before I met my wife. Jasmine and I always had this incredible chemistry back then, but we never acted on it. She moved away before anything could happen, and I always regretted being too shy to make a move. When we saw each other again, that same spark was still there, even stronger than before. We talked for hours, and it felt effortless. She asked me out, but I explained my situation, that I was still technically married but heading for divorce. She understood completely and gave me her number, telling me to call her when I was officially separated. She mentioned she'd never married and seemed genuinely excited about reconnecting. That encounter gave me the final push I needed. I went home that evening feeling lighter than I had in months, ready to finally have the conversation I'd been avoiding. I was actually smiling when I asked my wife to sit down and talk. I told her everything: how I'd known about her affair for months, how I assumed she knew I knew, especially given how distant I'd been lately. I explained that I wanted to move forward with my life and start dating again. I ended by saying, considering everything, it's time for us to get divorced. Don't you agree? Her reaction completely blindsided me. She broke down crying, not regular crying, but the kind that shakes your whole body. She started rambling about second chances, about how the affair meant nothing, about marriage counseling. I sat there shocked. I had expected her to be relieved, maybe even happy that she could be with the other guy without hiding anymore. I told her the time for fixing things was months ago, before she started the affair. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but there hadn't been any major problems either. If something was wrong, she never talked to me about it. I'm not a mind reader. How was I supposed to fix problems I didn't know existed? Whatever was so wrong in our marriage, I said, must have been serious enough that you chose to destroy our family over it. You can't undo these past months. You can't erase the pain you caused. I don't even believe you care about me. No one who cares about someone would hurt them this way. She became hysterical at this point, completely incoherent. I had to call her sister to come get her. When they left, I felt like I could breathe properly for the first time in months. But I was also confused. What was she thinking? She must have known this would happen eventually. Did she really think we could just go back to normal after everything? A few days after that conversation, I finally got some clarity. I hadn't slept well, actually fell asleep at my computer reading messages from friends. When I woke up, I started making lists on papers and putting them on my wall. Each one had a different focus: the kids, how to handle my wife, my future, Jasmine, questions I needed answers to. The kids came first. They're my top priority. I scheduled more counseling sessions, both individual and family. I planned trips and activities to create new memories with them. I reached out to my family to build a bigger support system. I even talked to their teachers and coaches to make sure they had help everywhere they turned. I also did something I never thought I'd have to do: got STD tests and DNA tests for the kids. Just thinking they might not be mine made me sick, but I had to know. If they weren't mine, they deserved to know their medical history. I'll be stressed until I get those results back. After talking with their therapist, we sat down with the kids and explained everything, letting them ask whatever questions they had. I must have said, "I love you and I'll always be here for you 100 times. Looking at my marriage, I realized I could never trust my wife again. Without trust, what's the point? The person I loved doesn't exist anymore, or maybe she never did. The affair changed how I see her completely. Maybe I could learn to love her again, but I don't want to. That's the simple truth. Any thought of her now just brings back memories of pain. Then there's Jasmine. We talked more on the phone, and I learned why she never married. Her fiancé died in an accident 5 years ago. She told me life is too short not to take chances when real opportunities come along. Still, I decided not to contact her again until after the legal separation. Even talking on the phone feels like an emotional affair to me, and I won't be that person. Before meeting my wife again, I made some rules for myself. I wanted to stay calm and not be cruel, no matter what. We need to co-parent these kids after all. I wrote down questions to help understand her thinking, but I wasn't going to give her false hope about reconciling just to get a better divorce settlement. I decided to split everything 50-50 and share custody equally. I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror years from now and know I did the right thing. When Saturday came, I want to see her at her sister's house. She looked terrible, red eyes, swollen face, messy hair. She seemed smaller somehow, like she'd collapsed in on herself. Her sister warned me she wasn't doing well, and that was obvious. She was shaking so badly she could hardly speak. Watching her cry, really cry, not the fake kind, was strange. I felt bad for her, but more like you feel bad for a stranger having a rough time. It confirmed what I already knew. I don't love her anymore. When she finally started talking, everything came pouring out. She didn't try to blame me or make excuses. Her sister's own cheating had triggered some kind of midlife crisis. She developed a crush on this guy at work and just went with it. She never thought I'd find out. She actually convinced herself I would support her fling if I knew how happy it made her. She thought everything would just go back to normal afterward. She only broke things off with him about 6 weeks ago, when the excitement wore off. She showed me her phone. She'd blocked him, but when I unblocked him, weeks of messages came through. She'd been trying to reconnect with me, but I was already checked out by then. I asked her what gave her the right to do this to our family. Her answer was simple: nothing did. It was pure selfishness. That's when I realized I would never get the answers I was looking for, because there aren't any good answers for cheating. She had everything prepared, a timeline of the affair, a signed confession, all of it. I didn't read any of it, just handed it to my lawyer. She kept begging for another chance, saying she'd do anything. I told her I didn't believe her anymore. When she asked what she could do to fix things, I turned it back on her. If you were in my position, would you forgive this? After some back and forth, she admitted she probably wouldn't. When I mentioned the STD test and DNA testing for the kids, she completely broke down. She swore this was her only affair ever, but finally admitted I had no reason to believe that. I asked if his wife knew. She didn't. She promised to tell her and everyone else, including their HR department. When I said I didn't believe her, she offered me a one-sided open marriage, access to all her accounts, constant availability. I told her about Jasmine and how I was waiting until after divorce because I refused to cheat. I don't want an open marriage or to be checking her phone all the time. That's not a real relationship. We talked for 5 hours. By the end, I told her clearly the love I had for her was dead. I didn't recognize her anymore. Our family was gone, and it was her doing. The only way to have prevented this was not starting the affair 5 months ago. I suggested no contact except for family therapy and co-parenting. She started crying harder, repeating no over and over. When I got up to leave, she got a massive nosebleed and passed out. I caught her before she hit the floor and drove her and her sister to the emergency room. I stayed until I knew she'd be okay. The next day, true to her word, she told everyone what she'd done. His wife called me to confirm everything. She'd suspected for a while but never had proof. I sent her some evidence, and she kicked him out immediately. She wanted to meet and talk, but I couldn't handle that right now. I'm struggling with guilt, even though I know I shouldn't be. Some of her friends and family are calling me names, saying I should give her another chance. But why drag out the pain? Better to end it clean and let everyone start healing. No revenge, no satisfaction, no peace, just more pain for everyone involved. But at least now we can start moving forward. Sometimes that's the best you can hope for. Looking back at these past months, I realize there's no perfect ending to something like this. It's messy and painful and complicated, but I know I'm making the right choice. The kids will be okay eventually. I'll be okay eventually. And maybe that's enough. The DNA tests came back positive. They're definitely mine. That's one weight off my shoulders at least. We're starting family therapy next week, and I've found a good divorce lawyer. One step at a time, that's all you can do. I still think about Jasmine sometimes, but I'm in no rush. I need to focus on healing first, on being there for my kids. The rest will come when it's supposed to. For now, I'm just trying to get through each day, making sure my kids know they're loved, and working on building something new from the pieces of what's left. It's not the ending I wanted for my marriage, but it's the ending that had to be. Sometimes that's just how life goes. You can't control what others do, only how you respond to it. I choose to respond with dignity, even when it hurts. That's something my kids can learn from, at least. Maybe that's the silver lining in all of this, showing them how to handle life's hardest moments with grace. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that subscribe button to help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with friends or family who might enjoy it too. Your support means a lot. And if you have any thoughts, questions, or story ideas, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next story.